go once more on the FIA Esports Regional Tour, and it's now not with Europe North, but with the focus very much on the southern tracks of Europe. We've landed in the Styrian Mountains, and today at the Red Bull Ring, we'll unleash these Formula 4 beasts once more to do battle. Delighted to have your company once again, where Arjuna Kankipati on hand alongside Lorenzo Bonder for what we're expecting to be a rather action-packed 20 minutes of racing, Lorenzo.
No, absolutely, Arjuna, and it's going to be quite an interesting one. Last week was the Tab Bradbury show, basically him dominating the entirety of the field, but then again, we go from a hard track to overtake to an easier track to overtake, where the draft is king, dive bombs are also king, and you have action from start to finish, basically. That's what I like.
I think that's what we always like with this Formula 4 Esports Regional Tour. If you're joining us for the very first time, well, this European South region that the drivers are working their way through right now has seen the first 6 rounds already complete and 6 more races still left to go. Catalonia, Barcelona circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia coming up with its historic layout, which is more akin to its modern layout, of course, now in Formula 1. Jerez, Hockenheim, Magny-Cours, and Jerez to close things out. But the regions, the European South moniker, it very much, Lorenzo, just denotes the tracks that we focus on.
Yeah, basically a more racy than probably the Northern region. Northern region, I think, more focused on UK, more base tracks than anything. Not saying that they're bad, but I think it gives the Southern region a better, more open racing from start to finish, like Monza. Lebanon can provide some overtaking. You have both layouts in the Barcelona, which can kind of be racy as well. And then you come into Red Bull Ring, which we know, if we're grabbing F1 and also MotoGP history, they can provide racing decent, not just in the front, but also in the back, in the middle, whatever you want.
And of course, there are 4 regions in this regional tour. Breaks up to 8 time slots per week across 2 days, 4 races per day. It means if you're crazy enough to try all 4 regions, you could have 32 races a week, but I don't think there are many that are able to do that just with the sleep schedules required to do so. It's open to anyone with a non-rookie license, and again, no geographical restrictions, so drivers from America can jump into the European races if their schedule permits, and vice versa, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and this is the good thing, that allows this openness of allowing everybody to race, try out the different tracks of iRacing, the different grooves and the difficulties, like some of the tracks. For example, like imagine running an Oran Park, like in F4. I know Oran Park doesn't exist anymore, but the challenge, or the fictional challenge of trying a combination like this is something like really good to do. Then you go to America, try something different. So the blend is always giving you something new to try out.
And from up above, we look at this wonderful Red Bull Ring, of course formerly known as the A1 Ring. You've got the climb up in towards turn number 1. You don't really get a sense for just how much of an elevation change there is looking at these perspectives, but qualifying is underway right now into its closing stages as well, and a big margin currently up towards the front, where Valentin Stew is almost 1 second clear of those behind Lorenzo. That is a remarkable margin at a track where we know draft is going to be king.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm boggled by it, but I like the middle. Anything bar P1, the gap between P1 and P2, it's close. Like you can say 0.3 of a second, it's close, but when you get from P3 to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's just like fractional margins here and there, like a corner done wrong or something like it, Arjuna. So this maybe top 5 battle is going to be insane, and I'm looking forward to it.
The interesting thing to note is 13 times on the board. That means 6 drivers not able to punch a lap time in the qualifying session. And well, track limits at a Formula 1 facility always expected to be a hot button topic. We'll see how it fares out though, again with 20 minutes being thrown onto the clock, and us ready to rumble for the second half of this FIA Formula 4 Esports Regional Tour season. Of course, starting here at the European South focus. It's Valentin Stew with almost a full second over the rest of the field, with Nico Latin-Latti alongside. Balaslav Lassa will be in third alongside Simone Gabriel, with Christian Ablasser and Theo Martin on the third row of the starting grid. 7th for Michael Derlinger with Søren Marie alongside Dylan Freckleton, and Arne Pens will be rounding out your top 10 with Guillaume Degulen and Raimo Vitra sharing row number 6. 13th for Hendrik Wendorf, Noel Jean-Michael, the first car with no time on the board, with Gerard Boldu, Arthur Vidal, Ciaran Crowley, and then Ramon Lozano, the final cars on the board, including Danny Garcia at the very back. Some interesting liveries up and down the grid. 20 minutes of racing, Lorenzo, means, well, only about 13 laps to sort things out in what seems to be a rather gloomy and overcast day in the Styrian Mountains.
Yeah, which for me is kind of odd. We know we're right in the middle of fall here in Europe, and the weathers are not the greatest, but I think because the track is going to be quite cool, it's going to be quite fast for the drivers, to come up. The tricky thing might be the brakes and the cold tires in the first few laps, so I can't wait to see how they're going to negotiate that.
Well, here we go. The engines will begin to build as the drivers focus towards the lights. 20 minutes thrown onto the clock, and we're underway at the Red Bull Ring, and instantly Valentin Stio tries to cut across the nose on the run up in towards turn number 1. Who's going to be brave? Couple of cars already, 3 and maybe 4 wide into the opening corner, but pole position will lead them on now the run into turns 2 and 3, with a couple of cars bouncing over the sausage curbs but trying to stay out of the drafting range. Here comes the momentum from those behind, climbing up into the braking zone. Stio's not going to be having to defend. Instead, that number 9 machine watches the challenge of Gabriel around the outside.
And that outside, if you actually take it properly, as Gabriel just makes the overtake on Lananati, is basically, gives you more grips. It gives you a little better acceleration. But if you're in the inside and you actually within the draft, it's not hard for you to follow. But the problem is that number 9 is also going to be overtaken again by Lhasa, maybe for P3. Oh, no.
That's the drama that you expect here down at Schlossgold. It's taken out at least 3, Crowley, Skopnes, and Jean Baikel, as we now filter through the middle sector. Large margin in qualifying, not translated into a large margin at the front of the field for your race leader as we head into the final sector of the lap. The front 10 basically now still all in a single file conga line as we dive down the penultimate corner. It's half a second between the top 2, and Simone Gabriel's gone from 4th to 2nd in the space of this opening lap.
Yeah, and the thing is breaking away. If you're over the second, it's basically an easier race for you to kind of navigate. You just cannot make mistakes in turn 1 and turn 3 and turn 5, and then turn 5, as we just seen, can provide those challenges. But quite interesting races. Now Dylan Freckleton moving up to 1 spot from what it looks like. Derlinger actually moved down 2 spots in just a short sequence of turns. But now all the snaking and maybe following the drivers trying to find the groove around the track begins. I expect maybe calm laps for now. Maybe 2-3 laps that it's going to be calm, just trying to follow your own group, then overtakes.
And Derlinger back in front of Marie as they battle up in through turn number 3. This is costing this a second group plenty of time. They are almost out of that drafting range and down the hill at the scene of the incident that we saw in the opening lap. They'll battle once more. The 13 on the outside, the 17 trying to make the inside line work. And, well, unlike Lewis Hamilton and Alex Albon, they show that you can run 2 wide and open wheel machines. Still, battle's not done and dusted just yet, though, and it's going to be a bold chink to the inside by Derlinger to hold on to the spot, and now even more time being lost. They are well and truly out of any sort of drafting range.
Yeah, absolutely. Now going through turn 7, not the cleanest exit, and you can see now Deguien just making a really clean overtake on the inside, and he's going to try to go for 2. I don't think he's going to be able to go for 2 though.
That's a slow run there, and maybe 3 wide into the corner. Boldu in that number 4 machine joins the fun, but around goes Deguien after such an impressive move to take advantage. There's a 360, spins it back around, but the damage has been done.
Yeah, damage done there, unfortunately, for the number 11 car. I'm just wondering if that was a contact made on the outside, maybe with one of the axle of the car, was on his own when he was actually merging through the outside of the corner. So that was a little bit weird for me, as now Laza for places to defend from Theo Martin as well.
It's up the hill into turn 3. We'll figure out what happened in some of the incidents that we've seen in a few moments' time, but as these drivers now lose track of the podium positions, and crucially, potentially a breakaway for Valentin Stio. It's down the hill in towards turn number 4, where down the inside can Latin Lati get back up into second spot. Not just yet. Simone Gabriel's going to be alongside and trying to take the momentum in towards the inside of the corner. Teo Martin's lost out and dropped down to 7th as Gabriel loses out and drops to 3rd.
Yeah, the Finn driver actually managed to really make a really good overtake on turn number 5 there, going through 6 and now 7. The problem is, it's like I said before, you're on the draft, so you're basically defending and attacking every single time, and this back and forth is just draining on the mind, you know, Arjuna. So it's one of the worst things you can ever happen, but that's the nature of a track like this. You're never safe until you are out of the drafting range.
And you can see out of the drafting range is your race leader, so he'll be thrilled to see that. Back towards the opening lap down the hill, and a jink to the inside from Jean-Michel number 3, and pirouetting into the air and going out as a result of that as well. It was Kieran Crowley and Arne Christian Skarpnes, the other 2 cars involved. You say Al Lorenzo, that was a hellacious bit of contact.
Yeah, I feel bad for the 3rd car, I think for the blue car that got involved and was just the innocent bystander. As right now, there you go, that number 10 just getting thrown, that's Crowley just getting thrown into the Arco barrier. I feel bad for him, you know, just innocent bystander coming in like, and getting swarmed out of the track.
Here comes Dylan Frackleton, who's up to 4th position. Teo Martin's up now to 7th, back in front of Durlinger. Frackleton may be disappointed with the qualifying down in 9th. Now in the top 5, but maybe has found the highest position that they're going to be able to get. Has slid on through on Laza. Abel Lasser is with them as well. And they're only about 2-3 seconds away from Latin Lati and Gabriel, who have very much lost track of your race leader. Lorenzo is this stage of the race now. 5 minutes done, 15 to go. My drivers can't afford to make mistakes, as Latin Lati almost does there.
Yeah, you cannot make mistakes at any point of the race, but at this moment where like a small spin can end you, like losing 7 seconds or something like that, is just tremendously bad. And you, especially if you come into battles with other guys on the track, especially in the mid packs, you're just going to be losing more and more time, and it just gets more problematic. But I think Frackleton is not going to complain one thing, Arjuna, about being in 4th place, considering how he performed last week.
That's a run wide from Latin Lati, and is that going to result in a slowdown penalty potentially? At the very least, it will result in an off-track. It's going to try and defend on that run up into turn number 3, with even more time being bled to those behind. Long way around. Gabriel got this done on the opening lap. Can he do it once more? Latin Lati a bit more willing to defend and holds on for now. Switchback will be attempted. Switchback being attempted by Ballas Laza, who's back up into 4th position.
Yeah, now Blaster's trying to take actually an advantage on the inside of Frackleton, but the number 1 driver is not letting anything through. Battle for 2nd again.
Down the hill, bold move there from the Finn to hold on. So much time being bled, and this is allowing those fast lap times to be punched in, as Laza's run wide and run himself off the track.
Yeah, but I think not off the draft range though, so he's still safe a little bit, even though Theo Martin's right behind him. He's just trying to find his groove again. Got lucky that number 6 car though.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay for Deguyan and how things unfolded for him through that penultimate corner. It looked a little bit loose already, but it was hard to tell from that camera angle exactly what happened. But 3 into 1 into that penultimate corner, Lorenzo, I could have told you that wouldn't have worked.
Same. Oh, there is some contact as the car that made contact just nearly decided to do a Mark Webber, and fortunately didn't lift off, but the number 11 just lost a lot of time in the process.
A lot of time. And then what happened to Martin in that number 5? All down the hill by himself, and seemingly lost it on the downshift or something. Didn't lose too much time though, fortunately. Lorenzo able to rejoin relatively safely.
Yeah, and also got a little bit unlucky due to the fact that it's a downhill braking zone, so the car just got a little bit lighter than usual whenever you throw the car in, Arjuna, and unfortunately I think he just put up too much input in braking into the car and just got loose.
And so, almost halfway through the race, we have officially one retirement, Kieran Crowley, but seemingly everyone else still out there and circulating, including John McKell and Arne Christian Skarpnes after the opening lap tangles. So as Lati and Gabriel continue to fight, this time with a jink to the inside from that number 8. Not necessarily a late passing opportunity there. They are worryingly getting closer to the likes of Dylan Freckleton, who didn't close the last time by Lorenzo, but if these two continue to fight as they do, and with a slight mistake there from Lati, it's going to allow the 3 behind to close on up.
Yeah, 2.4 is the gap now between Freckleton and Bolton. He's gonna catch up. Oh no!
It doesn't matter because they both tangled, and Freckleton through the smoke will take second spot.
That is, I'm trying to define the word, Arjun. Is that a nuclear outcome?
Well, we couldn't quite see from the camera angle what happened here. The 8's on the outside, and, well, if 3 into 1 didn't work, 2 into 1 also didn't work clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you blame someone? I don't know if I could blame Gabriele. I don't know if the spotter said it was clear, you know.
So as they fight now for 7th and 8th and 9th positions, it's Martin, Derlinger, and Marie up the hill. Mare, up in towards turn number 3. Pushed wide onto the sausage curbs, Martin. Here comes Mare to take advantage in that 17. Are they going to go 3 wide down the hill into Schlossgold? They very well could.
And this is quite dangerous, going 3 wide in a corner like that. We know how deadly this can be. I think the number 5 kind of survived this one, and oh no.
Derlinger lost it by himself, and it's allowed the 17 to swoop on through and take the 2-for-1 special. And now 10 seconds clear at the front. Valentin Stio says, well, my margin in qualifying now reflected in my margin in the race as well.
Yeah. Don't know what to say there, unfortunately, but that's the nature of Red Bull Ring is with these low power cars with low downforce. It's not like F1. F1 you can kind of hang around a little bit more, Arjuna, but with these F4, F3 cars, whenever you drive them, they tend to get more loose than normal. You have to have, more precise driver inputs whenever you're coming into those corners and hold the car in and just let it grip out. And unfortunately, it's not being the case for some of these guys whenever they're battling for positions, though. They're just getting, I would say, maybe too hasty to try to make that position and seal the deal. Oh, spin at turn number 1.
And you can see it just at the top. It's Remo Verta who drops down and slots in behind Ramon Lozano. From these shots at the top of turn 3, highest point on the track, you can see the margin that your race leader has. Dylan Freckleton is very much under pressure, and Simone Gabriele and Nico Lati are still very much within striking distance of being in this podium fight. So with 8 minutes to go should mean, I think, 5 laps to go at the line. There's still a fight on here, Lorenzo.
There is. I kind of figured there would be like some fights happening around the track, and like I said prior to the race start, I think this top 3 would be quite, spicy. Top 5 would definitely be quite interesting. So I'm like what I'm seeing so far. But I expected Freckleton to break away. I'm wondering if he's running higher wing angle than the other drivers are.
Hasn't just been swarmed on the straights just yet, though, and that's a promising sign.
Yeah.
As you take a look at not just the battle for 2nd, but the battle for 7th as well, as they work their way out of the final corner. And that's a bit wide for Mare, but all just in the goal of getting some momentum onto this main straightaway behind. It's Martin who's going to be defending from Vidal as Laza runs wide out of turn 1 in that fight for 2nd. No matter where you look, there are drivers in open wheel machines designed to build up racecraft that are being pushed, that are being tested, and there's the draft that now Mare's going to have to try and counter as Martin builds into turn number 3.
Yeah, just basically kind of like nearly wing bump drafting around the outside. There goes Martin, side by side. There you go, and yeah, I think Martin's going to have this one in the bag for a little bit, but it's going to allow, I think, Vidal or Mare to come closer. I think that would be Mare that would be the driver that is loving this so far.
Not just through, but down the hill into Schlossgold. Mare's going to have to concede and watches as around the outside. Can Artur Vidal take advantage and get through as well? No, not just yet is the answer, but going to take a look to the inside and try and sneak a peek. forces the 17 to be a bit wide in its turn in. Able to hold on. These lower powered cars, of course, can just get on the throttle and stamp onto the loud pedal just that little bit quicker. Another driver in issue, Hendrik Wendorf, has slipped off the track and has lost some time, but back up towards second spot, where down out of the final corner, running to complete the 9th lap of the race, Lorenzo. Freckleton not breaking away, but increasingly looking comfortable at the front of this 3-car train.
No, I think he's driving as honest as he can be, kept honest. So I think he has to push every single lap. He cannot relent. So it's kind of a tricky situation from, you know, starting at the back, outside of the top, maybe outside of the top 10, then you climb just through the ranks just by the driver mistakes and everything, and now finding yourself in P2, but then in constant pressure from P3 and 4. So it's not easy. You have to have some mental strength to withstand constant pressure for like 3-4 laps onwards until this race is over, and then say, oh, okay, I'm in the podium, so I'm going to get some good iRating and safety rating maybe.
5 minutes to go. We are in those closing stages. Mayor's back up the inside, it would seem, of Arthur Vidal, who has to try and pinch slightly on the entry into downhill turn 4. Middle sector incoming for these drivers. Only 3 seconds back from Latin Lati, so really haven't lost too much ground, all things considered, to those in front. It's just the race leader who continues to build up that gap and breaking away in quite remarkable fashion. Yep. We don't often have breakaway leaders, but in 20-minute races like this as well, but a statement being made up towards the very front. Abelassar dropping back off this battle for second and third. And Laza find some more speed, Lorenzo. You talked about downforce and setups. What do these drivers have to work with? A couple of laps to go.
So it's kind of an interesting track, you know, because you don't have a lot of turns and things like that, and it's not a track that you're going to have lots of sweeping bends and everything. Some drivers actually go for a very aggressive low angle, but you have to be mindful that you have a lot of elevation change. You're going down up and down the Styrian mountain, so you do need some downforce to withstand the car into the track. So some of them run like a medium-low downforce. Some of them run medium to high downforce to withstand the corners more accurately. So for what it looks like, Laza running more low wing from what it looks like compared to Freckleton, but not able to reach the UK and IRL driver.
Of course, there's familiar flames adorning Freckleton's machine. Here's a look to the inside. Almost compromised that turn in as well. But if you are running a bit more downforce, this is where you'll make your advantage. In this couple of corners, Freckleton will know that now with Abelassar being dropped, it comes down to these two. They're still fighting hammer and tongs at 8th and 9th position. Vidal and Mayer, Degelan and Wendorf as well. Plenty of fights to watch, but down out of the final corner with what will be 3 laps to go, Lorenzo, I believe. Excuse me, 2 laps to go for these drivers. Or is it 3 because of the margin that your race leader has?
I think they're running 130 per lap, so it's close to 130 if I remember correctly. So it's right on the margin. We could have 3 laps depending on when the leader actually started his lap.
It's very, very close, and that's why I think Laza doesn't want to wait inside. Freckleton's allowed the 6 to get there on that climb up into turn 3, but both cars deep on the brakes. Both able to get it stopped, though, in time. And now on the outside, the momentum surely for Freckleton going to carry him forward into second spot once again. But back down in towards Schlossgold. Watch those behind. Simone Gabriele has joined Christian Abelassar in the closing stages of this race. Still fighting down the hill into second.
Yeah, going around here, turn 5 today, go nearly 7%, nearly making contact. I don't know if they actually made some slight contact between both cars, but Freckleton might have a little bit of momentum towards the inside, seal the deal, because the outside doesn't have a lot of grip to go in, but it stays within the toe. That's why it's important to going around 7 now. And now you have to set up over here for the next 3 corners, Arjuno, to try to get that overtake on turn 1.
Watching the clock and watching the leader, we are going to be taking the white flag. Valentin Stew has just taken that final lap of the race. Side by side and down in through the Final couple of corners, that's a bold place to look for a move, and it's going to cost Palace Laza some momentum. Here comes Christian Abelasar on the final lap of the race to make it a 3-car battle for 2 spots on the podium.
I'm liking what Freckleton is also doing. Give a lot of space, give him all the room he wants to, but down defense from Freckleton to keep that second place. But now instead of one driver to be concerned about, you have 2 in just 1 lap to be concerned. Let's see what Laza is going to do. He's setting himself up for a dive on the inside again.
And double toe potentially for Abelasar out of this turn 3 complex. Lock of the brake for Laza allows Freckleton to get back on through, but just for the time being. 30 seconds left to go on the clock, and they're being pushed to the white lines.
Yeah, here they go once again on the inside. Does Laza make the move stick this time? Just too deep, Arjuna. Just too deep, and he's going to lose the position over here. And eventually, Blaser doesn't take the opportunity and move forward with this as Freckleton now into turn 6 on the inside. Can he hold on to Laza? Laza tries to actually find the opening. Doesn't have enough, but he has to set up for 7 and 8. And here comes to the final corner. Steele is going to dominate this, grab the win for the number 2 driver, but now back to second place. Now Freckleton on the inside for Laza. Does the number 6 have the room? No, he does not have the room enough to make that overtake. Freckleton defends on the inside, and he's going to retain that second position. And Laza on the line is going to be 3rd place, holding a Blaser just off by margins of seconds. Meanwhile, other drivers coming in. Simone Gabriele, I think, held the I'm going to butcher the name. Lanalati by also 4/10 of a second. That was close on the line. Theo Martin already 7th place, and other drivers coming in like Sonia Mer, Gerard Boldu, and Belihar Garcia into the top 10. And basically, the race is done and dusted. A lot of battles over here, Arjuna, that we had in the beginning of the track. From the beginning to the finish, like I said before, but I like what I saw so far. Yeah, it's still some more drivers up in the finish, but I think we can get the whole idea of the entirety of what we had in the race as Valentin Steele won this race. And I think we can take a quick look on the schedule over here for this EU South or European Southern Tour, as next week is going to be the Barcelona-Catalonia Historic, but we are going to be doing our broadcast actually next week for RaceSpot. It's going to be on the Apex side, so we're going to be visiting the APEC region, which is going to be Twin Rig Motegi, that we're going to be doing November 1st on RaceSpotTV, as tackling the speedway, or what they say, the super speedway in the Japan side. And furthermore, also on the week after, we're going to be also visiting Phillip Island as well. So it's going to be a APEC back-to-back. It's going to be interesting car combinations. I can't wait to see what is going to be here for the F4 Regional Esports. But for the time being, I think that's going to be for us here at RaceSpotTV. I am Lorenzo Bonder. I've been with Arjuna Kankipati here also with on commentary and production. But we're going to take a break, a 1-week break, but we're going to be back with Motegi for you guys to cover over here on RaceSpotTV. But for now, that's all for us. We see you next week, and have a good rest.